what do you think's a realistic expectation for this year? Like, what should he be aiming for?
I think we need to feel like on Sundays when we're watching Chicago Bears football that the offense looks like the rest of the league looks, right? We can't think of scoring 24 points as some monumental achievement, right? It's not. Like, teams in this league score north of 24 all the time. And so it has to look like it's an NFL offense in 2022. And so the eye test is going to be very important to see if Justin is understanding what he's seeing from opposing defenses, if he's recognizing how to use his strengths within the offense, if he's able to make plays that are on script and continue to make plays off script, which he has the ability to do. And so I think it's all just about seeing the progress with our eyes and feeling like, boy, you've got a quarterback that looks more comfortable and who is bringing the guys around him to a higher level, right? I think if you go back and look at 2021, you say, boy, there's too many guys that didn't reach the potential that we know they have. Starts with Allen Robinson, fall off. He may not be back going forward. Cole Kmet, he's got to go to the next level. Darnell Mooney obviously took another good step in his second season, but these core playmakers on offense have to look like they're playing better along with Justin because of Justin, right? And that's got to be something that we measure as well.
I find the Robinson situation really interesting. Do you blame Robinson? Do you blame Justin Fields, this offense, Matt Nagy? Who's to blame for what happened this year?
Yeah, shared responsibility. I don't think that the offense put him in the greatest positions to succeed. He obviously had interruptions himself with some injuries and COVID and all those things that came along with a rocky 2021 season. I think what's sad is the Bears had one of their better free agent hits with Allen Robinson, who joined the team in 2018 and showed that he was a guy who could catch 100 balls for you, who could get 1,200 yards in a season, could be that number one receiver in your offense. And now it looks like they're going to go their separate ways. Who knows how Ryan Poles views this? I think if you listen to anything on Monday, there was an emphasis on speed and explosion. Those aren't necessarily the adjectives that you attach to Allen Robinson's game. He's a guy that has done a lot in this league for multiple quarterbacks and multiple teams with his skill set. But if you're hell-bent on bringing in more explosion and more speed and sort of rebooting this thing at a time where it needs to be rebooted, I'm not sure Allen Robinson fits in your plans. And so, again, kind of a sad way to close the book on what was a promising tenure in Chicago up until September of 2021.
Who do you think fits those plans?
Fits the speed and explosion plans? Look, I mean, you're talking about Darnell Mooney being really the only core piece in the receiving core that is under contract to be back in 2022. So I think the answer to that question is going to come in free agency. I think it's going to come in the draft. And I think Ryan Poles is going to have to feel like he has a good understanding for what the long-term plan needs to be. I think you heard some realism from Eberflus and Poles on Monday and saying, like Eberflus said, this is 2022 is about pouring the concrete, right? And getting the foundation established. And so it wasn't this brash promise of we're going to compete. We're going to, this year we're going to be in a contender for the most meaningful things that are in the NFL. And so now with that, you may not be able to address all the things you want to address in the acquisition cycle of 2022 because you understand that you're trying to build a sustainable winner. And so some of these holes may not be filled until 2023, right? When you've had a more draft capital, when you've got your salary cap back in a spot where it needs to be. And now you can go and make some calculated decisions instead of just some really need-based decisions just to fill out a depth chart so you can practice in training camp.
What is an expectation for the Bears this year? A lot of people have said they should be a fringe playoff team. They have the roster, but where do you gauge where they should be?
This is my issue with trying to overstate how close they are. The goal should not be to contend for the number 7 seed and the wild card in the NFC, right? We saw how that went in 2020, and that's got to be a cautionary tale for everyone in that building at Hallis Hall. That season was as frustrating of a season as a lot of people have experienced around here. So don't prop that up. Don't hang the banner for the playoff berth in 2020. No one enjoyed that season, not the players, not the coaches, not the fans, not anyone in the front office. So don't think that that's the bar you're trying to clear. The bar you're trying to clear is what we've talked about. It's building yourself into what the Kansas City Chiefs have been during Ryan Poles' time in Kansas City. And it's a team that makes the playoffs every single year. It's a team that for the last 4 years has been playing on Conference Championship Sunday every single year, has gone to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. So raise the bar. And in order to raise the bar, you have to not sort of tempt yourself to take shortcuts. And Ryan Poles talked about that on Monday. Like, we can't think that we're so close and then you try to take a shortcut and you get this one flash season and then it's followed by 3 years of mediocrity. The goal is to set yourself up to sustain it year after year after year. And so I'm not necessarily setting expectations for the 2022 Bears to win 9 or 10 games and sneak in the back door of the playoffs. If you're 7-10 and you're 8-9, but you're establishing core pieces and Justin's going to the next level and the young playmakers you have are going to the next level, that's fine, because then that positions you for 2023 to maybe start that run of sustained success, right? And let's just keep using those words over and over, sustained success, because that's been the goal that the Bears have not been able to get to. They're constantly running through the minefield, the mines blow up, and they're back at the starting line, as they are here now again, with a new general manager, a new coach, a new front office, a new coaching staff.
That's how you're going to evaluate them, right? When you look back at Poles and Eberflus in a couple of years, it's going to be sustained success that's going to determine how good they did.
No question. Matt Nagy was the NFL Coach of the Year 3 years ago. He's at the Super Bowl, right? In February of 2019, he's accepting the Coach of the Year honors after winning 12 games and taking the Bears to a division championship. And we all thought at that time, boy, this looks like a promising window that's opening for the Bears to be in this hunt, contending for a Super Bowl, for the next several years in a row. It didn't happen, right? They fell off, lost more than they won over the last 3 years, had to reboot the whole thing. And so, yes, sustained success, it has to be the measure for these guys. And that's okay if it starts out, and it's not 12-4 and it's 7-10 instead. But you see that you're putting things together that can be sustained, and we'll see where they take that.
You mentioned Matt Nagy. Wanted to ask you about a couple of reports that came out about Mitch Trubisky blowing him off at the end of the 2020 season, and now Allen Robinson come out and said the same thing. What's your reaction to those two reports?
Yeah, I think this is just kind of the byproduct of losing, right? And things go south, and they go south in ways that the team can keep under wraps while it's happening, and then it goes south in ways that when a new start begins, people start talking and sharing their experiences and their frustrations about why it went south. And so I think it's all illuminating that this did not sort of build the momentum that 2018 should have provided, and that when the offense started to struggle, the disconnect sort of came in a little bit. And so it's something that all coaches and all general managers have to figure out a way to deal with. I give the Bears credit for limiting the melodrama and this dysfunction to the level they did, but that's not the end goal, right? The goal is to win football games and do so in a way that gives everyone the belief that you're the leader that's going to take this thing to the next level. And so that's now Matt Eberflus's challenge, to avoid some of those potholes that Matt Nagy couldn't.
Would you say Matt Eberflus is going to be a good leader of men?
The scouting reports you hear from people who have coached with him and people who have played for him are positive, right? That he has a way of connecting, that he has a way of setting a standard that also is accompanied by accountability, right? It's one thing to set a standard, and then it's another thing to make sure that your guys are meeting that standard. And if they're not, they're punished for it, or they're called out for it, or other guys who are meeting the standard are propped up and said, these are the models of what we're trying to do here. Matt Eberflus has all those qualities. Over time, we're going to have to see how he does in this head coaching chair. He told us Monday, look, he's going to hand off play calling duties of defense to his coordinator. That gives him more opportunity to move around, to be present in offensive meetings, to be able to be a resource for his offensive players and coaches. We'll see where he goes with that. I think you certainly like some of the things you've heard from Matt Eberflus and about Matt Eberflus. And now, again, going back to the start of what we talked about, first-timers have to learn how to do this on a new stage. And as you know, Chicago's a different stage than Indianapolis, than Kansas City. And so you better be prepared for what comes with that, more intense spotlight as well.
Yeah, Dan, you're going to hold him accountable. Dan Wiederer here on Sports Talk Chicago. Dan,